The crowd started gathering in Les Sables D'Olonne before dawn on Sunday morning. Their aim was to secure a spot to watch the 30 solo sailors depart for the start of the Vendee Globe non-stop round the world race. Every spare inch of space was taken along the canal banks and harbour entrance as hundreds of thousands of spectators waited to cheer their heroes as they left the harbour. The last few minutes before the boats departed were filled with emotional farewells with friends and family. De Cafari's Aviva was first away to lead the fleet out of the channel past the thousands of well-wishers. Frenchman Seb Josse is sailing the Cowes-built BT, run by Ellen MacArthur's Offshore Challengers team, and he followed Aviva down the channel. Third away was Alex Thompson, who nearly didn't make the start after Hugo Boss was dismasted 3 weeks before the start. Mike Golding said goodbye to his family before setting off to start his third Vendee Globe race. Although there are 7 Brits in the race, plus Seb Josse sailing for a British team, Mike is probably the favourite for a podium position. Johnny Malbon from Cowes is sailing the new Artemis, but lack of preparation time means he's seen as an outside contender. Brian Thompson is skippering Bahrain Team Pindar and is reckoned to be one who could do well, although the boat is unproven. Steve White was just happy to make the start after securing sponsorship in the final few days. His boat is old but strong, and he's just aiming to complete the race. Sam Davies is sailing Roxy, which has PRB won the last 2 races. Sam could do well in a race where reliability is vital. Out of the harbour and the skippers were faced with a moderate breeze but a very large swell. Support crews were busy helping the skippers hoist sails, avoid the spectator fleet and get in a position close to the line. The crew aboard Bahrain Team Pindar left it too late to get off, and Thompson was given a 2-hour penalty. The skippers had asked the committee to set a port bias line, and had all agreed to start on port, to avoid early tacks in the difficult seas and among the large spectator fleet. Amazingly, most of the fleet was close to the line, with Mike Golding cutting it too fine and having to return to restart. Almost all the boats set off on a long port tack heading west towards the weather front and the 50 knots of breeze that awaited them. Hugo Boss was well placed to windward of most of the fleet, while Aviva was doing well to leeward, and BT was also well placed. Only a couple of hours into the race and we had the first casualty, as Temenos 2 had to return to repair electrical problems before restarting. Next to return was Bernard Stam's Cheminise Pougelat. He hit a small cargo ship while down below at the chart table and smashed his bowsprit, forcing him to head back for repairs. One of the top favourites, Michel Desjoyeux aboard Foncia, was the next to return to Les Sables D'Olonne. He had a small leak in his water ballast system which caused electrical problems on his engine. By the time he got back in the race, the leaders were already 360 miles ahead. Jean-Baptiste Desgentil's Maisonneuve suffered deck damage, which forced him to return for repairs. Derek Hatfield on Algemus Spirit of Canada was the 5th skipper to announce he was returning, also suffering from electrical problems. 6th on the roll call of returnees was Quito de Pavant and Groupe Belle, which was dismasted in the horrendous conditions 24 hours after the start. Then came the news that the unlucky Alex Thompson had again suffered damage. This time a crack on the port side of Hugo Boss was letting in water, and Thompson was returning to port. The next report of damage came from Mark Tiercelin, whose DNCS had dismasted. That brought to 8 the boats that had suffered damage within 48 hours of the start. Meanwhile, the rest of the fleet battled through 50 knots of breeze and enormous seas until the front passed through, and they were able to head south towards sunshine and the trades. But even at this stage, the Biscay weather wasn't finished with the fleet. Yannick Bestarben's Aquarelle.com had made it through the worst of the weather, only to have the mast collapse when the boat fell off a large wave. As we completed this report, 5 boats were in line abreast at the front of the fleet, with Roland Jourdain's Veolia Environnement showing as the narrow leader. One thing is certain, this Vendee Globe will deliver excitement every inch of the way. Join us next week for our next report from this amazing race.